With June slowly approaching, the World Cup in Russia is about to begin. It will host teams from all over the world, like Mexico, France, Iran, etc. But there is one notable team that you will not see on the pitch come June time, and that is the U.S. men's team. The U.S. has a total population of 323 million people. Out of that, there are 4 million people registered to play soccer, and about 30% of Americans have played soccer in the past. With that being said, the U.S. has a lot of people to pick from for their national team. But in the qualifying match to get into the World Cup, they lost to Trinidad and Tobago, who has a total population of just over 1 million. During that game, the U.S. men's national team looked slow and tired if it was being outplayed by the young, experimental Trinidad and Tobago team. The Americans conceded twice in the first half and couldn't complete a comeback, losing 2-1. After the game, head coach Bruce Arena was fired. This has been a real big issue for the U.S. team, as the coaching staff for the U.S. has changed many times in the past 4 years since the last World Cup, and this was one of the greatest single failures in the history of the program. But the failure to qualify started way before the loss to Trinidad and Tobago. Under former head coach Jurgen Klinsmann, consecutive losses to Mexico and Costa Rica in the first two qualifying matches to get into the World Cup cost Jurgen his job as head coach. Arena, his replacement, appeared to have things under control until about September, when his aggressive and naive attacking tactics helped Costa Rica score 2 goals on the counterattack and beat the men's team 2-0. That was the lead up to the Trinidad and Tobago disaster. However, to many, not making the World Cup was not a surprise, though the men's team could comfortably feel like it had more talent than Trinidad and Tobago. The gap between the two is a lot smaller than it has been in the past, especially since the last World Cup. The gap in talent from the men's team to rivals in the South, Mexico, is also a lot larger, and that's partially down to a loss of generation. Most of the youth in America, players born between 1990 and 1996, just haven't been as good as the Mexicans. Only 3 members of the United States team that played at the 2009 U20 World Cup went on to make impacts at the senior level, one of them being Mix Diskerud, who was one of 2 non-goalkeepers on the U.S. roster in the 2014 Cup to not appear in the tournament at all, and now he is not even receiving call-ups, which is a big downfall for the United States. That could also be said for Brek Shea, who has not appeared for the U.S. since 2015 and has largely struggled at the club level since 2011. The third player being Jorge Villanueva, who was a part of the team but born in 1989 and did not receive his first senior cap until he was about 27, which again is not that young for a soccer player, especially one who wants to further himself. And while this group was not as good, they actually fared better than the age group below it, which failed to qualify for the 2011 U20 World Cup. Players from both of these age groups joined forces on that team that attempted and failed to qualify for the 2012 Olympics, which is restricted to players 23 or under. Villafaña is by far the most successful U.S. men's player from that group, and he was not even that good, and he was not even called up to the main squad. Things didn't go much better for the 2016 Olympic qualifying squad, whose only significant contributor to the World Cup qualification was Jordan Morris, who now has a torn ACL, and many people know how that goes. When they come back, they're not as strong as they were once before. Things are looking up for the U.S. men's team, though, with a multitude of young talent coming up, and with the likes of Christian Pulisic, who is already arguably the most accomplished American male player ever at the club level, who plays for Borussia Dortmund, and he has yet to hit his ceiling at the age of 19. And even if he doesn't improve, he's already one of the most talented players to ever come out of the United States and play for the Bundesliga. Also, there are players like Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Josh Sargent, and a multitude of other players who have already had their senior looks, and they're not even 20 yet, which is amazing for the U.S. team and amazing for them in the future. The final stage of the next World Cup qualifying won't come till 2021, so they have time to grow and develop, and these players will really help the team grow in the long run. With all that being said, the U.S. has something to look forward to in the future, but they're going to have to hold off for a little bit. Thank you for listening. This is Jenna Dietz signing off.